All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Apple Store Soho for another Meet the Director event. Tonight, we're very pleased to have Baz Luhrmann joining us. Baz is director of films such as Romeo and Juliet, Moulin Rouge, and the upcoming Australia, which comes out this Friday, the 26th. The film stars Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman. Later on, Baz will be joined by guest moderator Dave Schwartz, and they'll be talking about the making of this film, also taking questions from you. Before we bring them out, please enjoy the film's trailer.
Welcome to Australia.
You'd be a lot more comfortable if you changed into something a little less constricting.
You keep your eyes on the road.
Mr. Drover, there's only one tent.
We're not really used to
A woman?
Guests. We're not used to guests, that's what I was about to say.
I am as capable as any man.
You can't be serious.
Bring the horse.
This should be interesting. They keep out of my way, and I keep out of theirs. That's the way it is.
Just because it is doesn't mean it should be. Whatever happens, whatever it takes.
Now you're gonna have to be strong. Can you do that?
We can't let them win.
Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Baz Luhrmann and today's guest moderator from the Museum of Moving Image, David Schwartz.
I don't see you up there, David. Moderator.
You're the star. Have a seat.
Put me in a hot spot.
That's right. Well, you have a lot of people here waiting eagerly for your film to open. I think this audience loves your other films, Strictly Ballroom, Moulin Rouge, Romeo and Juliet, William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. And this opens tomorrow, finally. So the film Australia starts off with the year 1939. And anybody who loves movies thinks not just of the sort of onset of World War II, but the height of the classic Hollywood studio system and the great big movies like Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz. You kind of evoke that right at the beginning. So could you talk a bit about your ambition with this movie in terms of big old-style filmmaking?
Well,
Into the microphone.
my ambition. Actually, I guess the story of the ambition is epic in itself because it goes back. You'd have to cut back to Heron's Creek, 1972. I lived in a very small country town. 11 houses actually we had, and my dad had a petrol station, gas station, and we had a farm, and sort of mixed business, you know, but. The town next door actually had probably about 12 houses in it. It was a big place. And they also had a cinema there. And a man who sold the gasoline to us in bulk also ran the cinema. So sadly he passed away. He's sort of portly chap, didn't live too healthy. And he passed away. And my father was in the Vietnam War. He could thread a projector. So as a result, the woman came to us and said, "Look, Mr. Luhrmann, can you run the cinema?" And he did this. And so I was lucky enough to find myself sitting in the buy box where they, sort of project movies. And in those days, we got lots of reruns because we were in a country town with 12 houses. And I literally do mean there were 11 houses in our town. It was an extremely small place. And because of that, I got to see those films like Gone with the Wind and Lawrence of Arabia and musicals, and I had a great love for the musical form, and this other love was for what you call this sweeping epic form. Now the great thing about this form, it left me with a feeling that, well, there were two things actually. When a movie like that came to town, it was an event. It was kind of a cinematic experience that had broad comedy, romance, action, drama, all in one experience. And everybody in the district could come to that cinematic experience, old, young. It was kind of, if you use a food metaphor, which I've been using lately, I think contemporary cinema a lot is about, division somewhat. It's not to criticize it, but, you make 17-year-olds sort of go and see action films. That's sort of like, McDonald's or something.
Niche marketing.
Yeah, art film could be sushi, it's a fancy meal. What they call a chick flick, Sex in the City for 40-year-old women is some other, it's pasta or something. They're different kinds of foods. Well, this kind of cinema was a banquet of an experience. It served an entree, comedy, and then a main course, the romance, and then, drama, action. It was a table at which everyone could sit. And that impression, that feeling of a cinematic experience that everyone could be drawn into has stayed with me. So now we jump forward.
Okay, and here we are.
Yeah.
And so when you decide that you're going to make a movie called Australia, it's got to be, first of all, there's a bit of chutzpah involved there. It's the whole country. It's the biggest production made in Australia. How do you decide sort of what that's going to be about? Because it does have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It has
Look, it's kind of a process I followed on almost everything I made. It's both very personal and then very, very sort of process-driven. So the personal of it is that I was, I had this period of time after Moulin Rouge where I was very committed and had gone down the road of working on Alexander the Great, this project. And it was Leonardo DiCaprio was in it with Nicole and other fantastic actors. And I'd written, which I can't tell you about, but I will tease you with, they were incredible. And it was a huge investment. I was producing with Dino De Laurentiis and Steven Spielberg. We had built a studio in northern Africa, in Ouarzazate. The studio is still there today, being used for a television series. And we were very, very invested in this project. And then there was a competing project that came along. And, my wife and I, my creative partner and wife and muse, as some people have said, we wanted to embark on another project, which was to have children. So we chose that one, and after some workshopping, I'm happy to say we had our children. And we were living in Paris, kind of withdrawing from things after Alexander. But the question came up, actually, I think I remember this with Sam, was, who are our children? Like, where are they from? What is their home? Will they know their home? And this idea of where we had come from, Australia, and understanding what that country was the beginning of the journey of this film. So there's this personal action, and then there's personal passion, which wouldn't it be great to have banquet cinema back on the agenda again? And I remember leaving from Paris, and we were travelling back to Australia, and a little bit like Lady Sarah Ashley in the film, Australia was a land far, far away. And the kind of films that these are, these epic works, tend to be about characters who go to lands far, far away, and that land is a canvas on which the story is painted, and the character is transformed by their journey through that land. It's Lawrence of Arabia,
right,
or it's out of Africa, or it's... So the landscape is a metaphor for the journey. Casablanca is not about Casablanca. Casablanca is about border characters running from somewhere, going somewhere else. So the place, the naming of the place is a metaphor for that. And I say that because